Hi, my name is Heather Carey. I am an instructor for ESSI303. I am going to review the key assignment for this course, as well as the InTASC standards assignment. So to find the key assignment, one way to do that is you could go to modules. And once you're in modules, scroll down to the bottom, and the key assignment will be within this here. So you can go click on that. Okay, so this is a three-part assignment. So within that, you have to differentiate a lesson for a diverse classroom. You have to develop that lesson for a co-taught classroom where you have to choose at least two co-teaching strategies. And then the third part, reflect on and analyze your completed lesson. So now please know and remember that you're working on this assignment within the entire term. So part one, given 5 case studies involving students who have a learning disability, talented and gifted, English language learner, a behavior disorder, and one other of your choice. So these are the case studies that you do clear at the beginning of the course. And that should guide most of your assignments throughout this course. Develop a differentiated lesson plan that demonstrates a variety of differentiation strategies based on learner needs and learning objectives. So these are the assignments that you work on throughout this class. At a minimum, your lesson plan must address the following components with clear references to differentiation strategies embedded or noted in a section designated for differentiation. Please remember, I stated you don't have to have a certain lesson plan. It is these parts in the lesson plan that are important. Part one would be the pre-instructional set, which includes gaining the student's attention, the statement of learning objectives that are grounded in the learning needs and levels. So this is where we had that diamond that includes what all students are going to learn, what some students are going to learn above and below the objective, and then what a few students are going to learn above and below the objective to include a statement of mastery. And then preparing the knowledge base, activating that prior knowledge, and then review of previously learned skills, vocabulary, instruction. You must clearly relate the teacher roles. So think about that general education teacher, paraprofessional, student roles. And in many of your lessons, this is where you will be including that. You could also be tying in your co-teaching parts during this. And then the differentiation strategies that meet those target students' needs as well as other possible learning characteristics. In this instruction part, think about that cognitive modeling, the guided practice, and then the independent practice. The I do, we do, you do, or I do, we do together, and you do. Is that release. And then the closure. Think about those assessments. The chosen content standard must align with the learning objectives. The learning objectives must align with the formative and summative evaluation strategies. So remember, you may not have a summative assessment within your lesson, but we always start with having that summative assessment in mind. And then the formative and summative evaluation strategies must align with the chosen instructional methods. Attach the differentiation images, assessments, graphic organizers, and or other resources. And then the lesson must be classroom ready. So it doesn't have to be a week, it's just a day. You don't need another lesson, but like I would just make this a part of it. Take that lesson that you just wrote and add two co-teaching approaches to it, co-teaching strategies. You could only use one teach, one observe, or one teach, one assist to it. and that must be clearly justified. So think about the same ideas that we just went through, the pre-instructional set, um, the preparing the knowledge base, the instruction. Where can you put co-teaching in there? And like I showed you in class, you need to make sure that you can state that the general education teacher's role, the co-teaching role, where will they guide the practice? Where will they be at for assessments? So this is very important, and you can just put each of the teacher's roles in there. What will they be doing? It doesn't need to be another lesson. And then in part 3, the final task is to write an analysis of your lesson plans. Describe your analysis of standards to determine the learning needs. Discuss other areas differentiated for learning style, your student preference, interest. Think of that spin: student preference, interest, and needs, the social interaction opportunities. So this may be other things that came about as you were writing your lesson. Explain how assessments were used to inform instruction and ensure accurate measure of student mastery, when characteristics may interfere with demonstration of proficiency, and then justify your instructional decisions based on theory and research. So you the lesson plan must have the appropriate differentiation decisions. All the lessons that we did throughout the term really goes towards this assignment, this key lesson. Your co-taught lesson plan or extended explanation of the previous lessons should relate to instructional decisions. You have to have your 1 to 2 page analysis, has to be in APA format, include your references. All of your references should go towards the bottom. They should not be throughout your paper. This is 20% of your grade, okay? And then you need to submit it here. I will now go and show you the InTASC reflections artifact. So when you do this, there is a separate video for you to watch. So I'm not going to play that video at this time. But like I reviewed at the very beginning of the course, when I go over each of the different objectives in the PowerPoints, that is where you can find each of the standards that we're learning. I go over those every time. You can find those assignments to demonstrate the learning for each of these. So when I go over standard 2 learning differences, you can find how we demonstrated that learning, and then you can demonstrate it here. You can do this through PowerPoint, through a paper. So it says you've had the opportunity to reflect on several of these standards during this course. For your final learning task, you will create an artifact. It can be a table, essay, presentation, Canva, speech. So here we want to differentiate based on your needs. The course standards are presented by InTASC. Paraphrase the standard in your own words, because we want to know that you understand what it means, how the standard relates to the best practice in your role as an educator, why it's important, and then one reference to at least one knowledge, one skill and disposition that you personally connected with, to include an explanation or example from this course. So your artifact must include evidence of reflection, introspection that shows critical analysis of both the standard and course content. So make sure that it should be free of format, grammar, spelling, and punctuation errors. So there's templates here to give you ideas, so that should help. If you have questions, please reach out. I hope this video helps.